Hello everyone, welcome to Wave Hill's Meet the Bird segment. My name is Brian Bradley and I live in Hudson Valley, New York, about an hour and a half north. And I'm a falconer and an educator and come down to do a presentation at an annual event called Wings Over Wave Hill in the fall. And we decided to do a little video presentation offering some of the birds for those of you who haven't had a chance to make it down here in the past. Our bird today is a barn owl. Now, owls being nocturnal are adapted for hunting at night. We all know that, but he's quite comfortable out here during the day as well. He's looking around and checking out his environment here. Barn owls are actually called barn owls because in the wild they've adapted to sometimes nesting and living in old barns and abandoned buildings. They're cavity nesters by nature, which means they nest in a hole in a tree in a typical situation. So that allows them to naturally adapt and nest in a hole elsewhere. They are rodent eaters. Probably 95% of the barn owl's diet are mice and meadow voles that they catch on the ground. So farms and fields offer them small rodents, and when those rodents move into barns and buildings, even in a building in the inner city, if there are rodents there, the barn owls are simply following the food. They're adapting or adjusting their lives for survival. And he's curious about everything he sees. All the birds behave differently. They have their own individual personalities. Some are a little bit more nervous than others, but he's quite curious. He's looking around and taking everything in. You'll see him turn his head, and he can actually turn his head in quite a ways. They have a very flexible neck. He can turn his head roughly 270 degrees so that he can scan in all directions for prey. If he were sitting in the top of a tree and could only turn his head a few degrees the way we can, he'd have a hard time. He'd have a lot of blind spots. He'd have a hard time covering a large area. But the ability to spin that head all around in all directions allows him to see very efficiently. He's actually a European barn owl. Barn owls are one of the most widespread and widely distributed birds of prey on the entire planet. They're found on many different continents and different habitats. European barn owls are smaller and whiter than our North American birds, but they are the same barn owl. They're the same species. So that's our barn owl, and barn owls are sometimes called the farmer's best friend. Being that they eat all those rodents, they'll consume thousands of mice and meadow voles and rats a year. Farmers actually like to have them on the property, orchards and produce farms. Farmers will build artificial nest boxes to invite the birds to the property because a pair of barn owls will eat hundreds and hundreds of mice every year to feed those hungry young. And year after year, they're a great form of rodent control. Then farmers don't have to use poisons and pesticides that get into the food chain and pollute the environment. So they are nature's form of rodent control. Hope you enjoyed meeting our barn owl, and tune in again for our next bird. Thank you very much.